Welcome to Ask the Expert from the Sugar Science. It's a new style of scientific communication, more town hall than a lecture. It's short to accommodate the time-sensitive world of scientists, and we believe that collaboration accelerates scientific research. We Ask the Expert, therefore it serves to further the T1D research ecosystem, engage in small salon-type groups, and expose more scientists to new ideas and connections that have a footprint or intersect in type 1 diabetes. Today, our guest is Dr. Amparo Guemes Gonzalez. Please forgive my pronunciation.
No, it's perfect.
And the title of her presentation is Bioelectronic Medicine, Bringing Innovation to the Treatment of Type 1 Diabetes. And I just would like to give a short introduction, a short bio for her. She received the very prestigious postdoctoral 1851 research fellow at the Bioelectronic Lab at the University of Cambridge. She received her BS in biomedical engineering from Polytech University of Madrid in Spain, and her MS in biomedical engineering and PhD in electrical engineering from Imperial College in London in the UK. Amparo's interdisciplinary research combines all these things: signal processing, modeling, electronics, and electrophysiology to develop advanced algorithms and neurotechnology to be integrated into a closed loop platform that aims to improve glucose control in type 1 diabetes. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you very much for inviting me. This is my pleasure.
We're very excited to hear, about your work today. And I don't know if you want to sort of dive into some slides, or do you want to just give a little bit of a background about, maybe just a sort of a verbal background about what it is you're studying right now?
Yeah, so well, I'll cover this better on during the slides. But basically, this is new perspective for approaching type 1 diabetes control. And it's through implementing what's right now is having a lot of impact on diseases, which is bioelectronic medicine. So I'll explain what bioelectronic medicine is in a few minutes. But basically, it changes completely the perspective of medicine. So instead of considering each system as independent from each other, so consider the metabolic system independently from the immunological system or from the neurological system. It basically tries to see a whole approach of the body, and this is what I think makes sense, like, because our bodies work all together, right? So this tries to unlock the potential of the nervous system to approach other types of diseases, such as immunological or in this case metabolic. So I'll talk later on, like, in more detail.
That sounds great. It's really interesting that it kind of brings up the idea of almost like Eastern medicine, with the idea of acupuncture and those types of things. I mean, that's very different than what you're talking about, but there's something about the two that kind of, have a little bit of overlap, in that the Eastern medicine, the acupuncture approach, does sort of approach the whole body. And it's a very ancient kind of medicine. So it's really interesting that the new technology is kind of, I don't know, how would you say it? Like, overlapping on that, or sort of advancing that?
Yeah, I guess it's, well, taking that to, or making the most of that, probably, by using technology.
Perfect.
And it is true that and there are actually, when people give this talk about bioelectronic medicine, there's always a question about acupuncture, because it resembles so much, like trying to by using the neural system, trying to change the response of other organs that may not be directly related to each other, but of course they are, because our body is controlled by the brain, and the way that the brain controls the organs is through the peripheral nervous system. So then it makes sense that if you target the peripheral nervous system, you are kind of interfacing with, well, the control of our body, right?
Fantastic.
So,
yeah, that was perfectly put. Do you want to dive into some of your slides?
Sorry, yeah, perfect. Let me see. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfectly. That's a gorgeous image. Is it a
Great.
lecture?
So, cool. Well, so thank you once again for inviting me. And today, this talk, as I said, I'm gonna focus on novel technology for diabetes. In particular, I'm gonna focus on a field that promises to provide really good results in the management of diabetes, which is bioelectronic medicine. So first, I wanted to start highlighting the importance of diabetes, because in my opinion, diabetes is one of the most challenging pandemics that we are suffering right now. And I said pandemic because, well, these years we've been all like COVID has brought all our attention, right? But diabetes still affects over 460 million people worldwide, and is forecast to be the 7th leading cause of death by 2030. And also, it is not only this, but the healthcare expenditures associated with this disease are prohibited for some patients, despite being essential. And for example, I have included these two figures that illustrate how impressive the cost related to the insulin market is. So the point I want to make here is that this disease causes an enormous impact on society, and it encourages us for the development of new strategies to improve glucose control. And one of those is through technology. So I kind of put together this slide with an overview of how diabetes technology has evolved over time. And just to place us in context, it was in 1960s, so 60s, when the first dual hormonal pump for insulin glucagon delivery was developed. And then towards the end of that decade, it was the first portable glucose meter that was in the market. But then we had to wait till the end of the previous century, when Medtronic produced the first subcutaneous CGM mini-med system. And then throughout the last decades, there has been a lot of progress. And in particular, the most outstanding device was the development of these closed-loop systems, which are known as artificial pancreas. And the first commercialized system was the Medtronic 670G. And as we can see in the, let me see, you can see my pointer here. But here in this graph, this is the glycemic control using in a type 1 diabetes person implanted with this closed loop system. And in fact, like the metabolic control is much, it's improved. And also the quality of life of the patient is improved, but still the glucose control is far from the optimal one seen in healthy individuals.
Absolutely.
So there's still room for improvement here. And why is it that difficult to control glucose levels? And the reason is that there's a huge complex network of mechanisms that are involved in controlling glucose metabolism in healthy individuals, where we have not only a lot, like loads of different substances and hormones that interact with each other, but also we have neurotransmitters as well. And of course, we want everything to provide a tight and a robust regulation of glucose, because glucose is the energy of our tissues, and in particular of our brain. So we need that to be super controlled. Yeah, so that's why it is so difficult. It's so challenging to control glycemia. And in particular, so I want to highlight here the importance of the nervous system, because of course our organs don't work in isolation. They are continuously being told what to do by nerves acting through neurotransmitters. And these enable a bidirectional communication between the nerves, between the brain and the organs.
Yeah,
and
I like how you highlighted the bidirectional communication.
Yeah.
That's
no, exactly.
often, not. I think it's often underappreciated. So.
No, I mean, well, I can talk later on a bit more on this, but it's incredible, like how different the responses are depending on if you are activating the afferents, so the ones going to the brain, or the efferents, or the ones going to the organs. So the responses are completely different.
It's going to be different.
So yeah, basically, this is called the autonomic nervous system because it's completely like without any voluntary input. And within this, we have the parasympathetic nervous system, which whose primary nerve is the vagus nerve, and the primary neurotransmitter is acetylcholine. So this whole scenario, of course, has motivated the researchers to explore new opportunities for studying glucose control and glucose metabolism in the context of the nervous system, and which, I mean, despite it has a huge importance and a huge impact, it has been disregarded in current metabolic technology. So, okay, I've been talking about bioelectronic medicine for a while, but I haven't defined it. So what is it, bioelectronic medicine? So it has many different definitions, but the one that I like the most, it's basically using any type of stimulation. So it can be electrical, optogenetic, ultrasound, to modulate the neural activity of the peripheral autonomic nerves for treating a disorder or restoring lost biological functions. And for example, right now we have clinical systems that use both invasive and non-invasive vagus nerve stimulation to treat a variety of diseases such as Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, migraines. And I recently read even that vagus nerve stimulation could be used for treating COVID. So like it's applying to everything. So the question is, can we really apply bioelectronic medicine for improving diabetes management? And the answer is a promising yes, because well, here I have included a summary of the most recent and successful preclinical and clinical studies on bioelectronic medicine targeting different nerves and organs which are deeply involved in glucose metabolism, such as the pancreas, the stomach, the guts, the liver. And just to provide some examples of the research that has been conducted. So most of it has happened in the context of obesity, for controlling food intake and regulating body weight. But then we have for type 2 diabetes that research is focused on trying to control insulin sensitivity by using neuromodulation. And for example, there's this study where they increased insulin sensitivity by blocking the activity of the carotid sinus nerve. And then for type 1 diabetes, we have a lot of preclinical research, which is focusing on trying to modulate, increase and decrease glucose levels using stimulation. But also we have this, this is an amazing paper by researchers at the Feinstein Institute, who are, by the way, pioneers and worldwide reference on applying bioelectronic medicine.
Are you talking about Theodora Sanos and Cynthia Arano and company?
Yes, so they had this, this is an outstanding paper showing that, well, they were able to decode glucose levels from neural firing patterns, and this is an unprecedented result that shows the potential of using the vagus nerve as a glucometer, as they mention it. So yes, there are lots of opportunities. In my case, what we are trying to do is to use bioelectronic medicine to expand current glucose controllers by mimicking more closely how the healthy population work. So basically, right now, like not only including the metabolic control, but also adding this neural control. And well, just because I didn't know how experts the public was going to be. So just as a reminder, when we eat, the beta cells in the pancreas release insulin that allows our body to use and to store the glucose contained in the carbohydrates. And of course, this happened, as we have seen, everything under the ultimate control of the nervous system. However, what happens in type 1 diabetes is that there's a destruction of the beta cells, which are the cells that secrete this insulin. So then there's no insulin secretion, and there's not a decrease of glucose after meal intake, which cause like really risky fluctuations of glucose. And to manage this, right now, one of the state-of-the-art treatments is this closed-loop artificial pancreas that responds to changes in blood glucose concentrations by automatically delivering the dose of external insulin that is injected to lower them. But we could achieve even better control by combining these glucose readings with information extracted from neural recordings regarding the metabolic state or information about the meals. And together with these two, we can compute better computation or better estimations of the insulin to be delivered, but also the characteristics of the electrical stimulation to be delivered back to the nerves targeting the organs of interest.
Yeah, because one of the issues is even with the closed loop system, if new patterns are introduced, like if exercise is introduced, that can, there's a lag with the CGM sometimes, and it doesn't accurately represent what the blood glucose is. So this seems like a really great added level of detection.
Exactly, yeah, because as you said, like one of the main challenges right now is delays, but delays both in the glucose measurements, glucose sensors, but also in the action of insulin once you inject it. So if we could act from the very first second, then that will make a difference. And of course, the nervous system, it's like the dynamics, so the timing, it's much faster. So then if we can interface with this and detect signals that are triggers of meal intake or that informs us about a change in the metabolic state, then we can react faster to these changes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So basically, this is what my colleagues and I at the University of Cambridge are trying to do by designing new hardware and algorithms that will enable a safe and an effective interface with the autonomic nervous system, and in particular with the vagus nerve. And for doing this, we are currently working on two sides. One is new microfabrication techniques for electronics to implant in the vagus nerve, but also on exploiting machine learning algorithms that will allow us to extract these in real time useful information about this metabolic state of the meal intake, which, as I said, will allow us to make better predictions of the insulin to be delivered, which in turn will reduce the amount of insulin that you need to inject, and of course the cost associated with this. So what challenges are we facing? Because all of this is very promising, but there are lots of limitations. And one of the most important limitations in neuromodulation in general is basically to increase the specificity of the stimulation so that we only activate the fibers that target the process of interest, and we minimize the risk of secondary effects of activating other non-unwanted processes.
How easy is that to tease out which fibers are going where and functioning?
Yeah, so so different researchers are exploring different strategies. The one that I've read that I liked a lot was using optogenetic stimulation. So basically, you are injecting this opsin. It's kind of a marker that marks the nerves that you're interested on, so that then with light you only stimulate those fibers, and they managed to stimulate only the cholinergic fibers targeting the I think it was the pancreas, But basically, they managed to only targeting cholinergic fibers to modulate insulin and glucose.
So much more specific targeting.
Yeah, exactly. So as I said, like there are different strategies as well, like using different stimulation parameters as well can help you to target specific fibers. But there's a lot of ongoing research on this. But still, like this is one of the challenges. And then this is on the stimulation side. Then on the recording side, so we need this is in general like how to interface with the nerve, right? So we need to develop better electrode to nerve interface. And how can we do it? So we can do it by designing better materials and other fabrication techniques that will ensure a safe stimulation, but also a long-term reliability during chronic recordings. But most importantly, and this is one of the grand challenges, which is acquiring biostability and biocompatibility with the surrounding tissue in the long term, because there's like this biodegradation process that happens in our bodies, which is normal, and encapsulation, and all this degrades the sensors. So working on making them stable over time, this is one of the greatest challenges. And then, yeah, as I say, like for recording, we have this is a very difficult task, because, well, the signals that we are looking for, they are very low amplitude. They are really low signal to noise ratio, so the background noise is quite high, and they are non-stationary. So all these really complicate the task about recording. But the good news is that there's a lot of research going on neural decoding in general, and data analysis algorithms are improving as we speak. So we are already being able to extract real-time information about firing patterns of the peripheral nerves, as this paper that I was mentioning before by researchers at Feinstein. So this is something that will be possible for sure, and we are working towards this as well. And then another technical challenge basically involves integrating all the metabolic and the bioelectronic hardware and software into one single system that is patient specific and that works in real time, and that it provides ideally this adaptation over time, right? Like smart systems. And for this, we need, of course, innovative solutions for efficient wireless data transmission, because that is one big challenge there, but also a reduction in the power supply, because energy efficiency is really important in these really small systems. And finally, in terms of the adoption, in the long-term adoption of this neural technology, well, basically it relies on the development of minimally invasive or non-invasive technology, which is already there, but with the enough temporal and spatial resolution that we seek for only targeting the processes that we're interested on. And well, there's already progress on this, because probably you're aware that researchers from Galvani and GSK, they managed to implant an electrode in the splenic nerve for stimulation using a minimal invasive laparoscopic.
Yes. We've been watching that.
Yeah, so that is a huge step towards minimally invasive implantation of this type of technology, so that it doesn't necessarily need to be non-invasive, which is less specific, but you can acquire the required specificity by being minimally invasive. So this is very nice results. And finally, I want just to mention that a really good news for us is that the community of people with diabetes, they have already demonstrated that they can adapt quickly to new technology, because as we said, like for the last 70 years, well, 60 years, they have been using different types of technology, and they have adapted to it. And I believe it is because of the continuous strategies for educating the users, which is very important. So for me, like this scenario, it motivates that this novel hybrid, like neuromodulation and drugs system can be successfully adopted by the diabetes community.
Yeah, I would also add that, those with type 1 diabetes, it's an incurable disease. Some of type 2 can be reversed through diet and exercise, but for type 1, there's no alternative but to constantly be, every day monitoring the blood sugar, giving insulin. And so I think that they're ready and ripe for like some technology that's going to make their life a little easier or less of a burden. So I think
Yes.
it's really a perfect timing, I think, for the entry into this.
Yeah, definitely. So just want to wrap up. So basically, as I said, like I expect this novel closed loop technology, combining both metabolic and neural technology, to enable patient-tailored, fully autonomous, and more affordable treatments to eventually address one of the most greatest challenges of medicine nowadays. And I feel it's just a matter of time, given the huge progress that the whole scientific community and industry are putting together towards this. So when, we don't know, but we are working towards that. And this is it. Thank you very much. And yeah, like now it's the fun part, the discussion.
Yeah, no, fantastic. This is just really great. A great sort of like high level view of really where the field has been and where it's going. I'd like to take some questions from the audience if they would like to drop one or two in the chat, or they can unmute themselves, whatever they'd like. So what's next for you though, after you're completing, this postdoc? I mean, are you going to continue in this realm, or do you have plans yet, or what are you thinking?
Well, I just finished my PhD, so I just started the postdoc. I have at least 3 years here. So my plan right now is to work on this, both on the recording and stimulation sides, and hopefully, like, the idea is to keep working on this project towards building this closed loop system. My plan is to stay in academia, because that's the environment I feel more comfortable in. But of course, I understand that these things don't happen with the support and the guidance of industry. So industry is the best way to go into society, basically. So working hand in hand with industry, it's a must, and that's something I'm trying to foster as well.
Yeah, it's a collaborative platform, and I mean, here in the US, there's a number of different initiatives that are trying to make that an easier, collaborative piece. So and I'm sure that's true in London as well. Is there anyone else that I do see? There's several people in the audience, so I wondered if they would like to just sort of drop a question in. I mean, I'll just ask, what do you think is the in terms of the anatomy, the actual anatomy of the nervous system, and it's the autonomic nervous system? I mean, we know that there's some kind of, personalized or, individualized way that everyone's physiology is constructed.
Yep.
So, I mean, is this going to drill down into being something that's really going to have to be understood from a person by person situation, or will there be some way to sort of detect, okay, this person's, vagal anatomy is pretty similar to everyone else's, or is it really going to be like, oh no, this person has some kind of neuronal differences and we have to accommodate that?
No, I mean, I'm not an expert in clinic, so my research is more preclinical. But despite, of course, like as you said, like there are differences between individuals, but the gross anatomy that remains the same. And the idea of these systems is that is to make them smart, in the sense that you can't create. So there are like two strategies: the one fit all, right, and then the personalized. This is going more towards the personalized treatment, but starting from template that will then be adapted to each of the individuals. How can you do that? Well, basically, as they are doing right now for treating rheumatoid arthritis. So the system is the same. What you are changing are the parameters that each, because each person has a different threshold, for example, for activation. So that's what you play with. But the
you have a
system
different set point.
Exactly.
Reference that company.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what how the name came. But yeah, exactly. So it aims to provide patient-tailored treatment, but using a system that remains that can be applicable for everyone.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the pumps and the closed loop system is now, in a way, right? It's usable by most all, but it's supposed to adapt to that individual's sort of patterns. So yeah, that does seem like it's a possibility, and of course that's what the business cases need, I guess, is something that's going to really have a market. So that's what they're interested in producing. So it's really something to consider. Well, I think I can't wait to see what you do next. And we'll be watching your work and papers that come from your laboratory. I think this is amazing new way forward, and it's great to see you at the forefront with just superlative training and some great vision to make it all happen. So thank you again for meeting with us today, and we'll hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, this is a huge opportunity for me to show this novel field. I mean, it's not novel in the sense that, of course, bioelectronic, in the sense of stimulating organs, has been applied since, well, the cardiac, the pacemaker, but it's novel the way that it's being applied right now. And it's good that, well, people starts to get familiar, and in my opinion, this is the future of medicine, like for everything. Probably not to, I don't know if it's gonna replace, but for sure it's gonna add.
Yeah,
it's gonna add safety, it's gonna add efficiency. So
two very important pieces of the puzzle in type 1 diabetes management. And it's great to see you as a pioneer, as a young woman scientist out there doing this and really just diving in. I love it. Thank you again.